Excellent. So welcome back, everybody. Today, as I said before, we're going to be modeling a knight, and the method we're going to be using for that is we'll use 3D sculpting. So I like to begin by getting some good reference. So let's go knight chess. And obviously, you'll notice pretty straight away that the knight resembles a horse. Yep. So there's lots of different options. You don't necessarily have to make it look like a horse. I've seen some that look like dragons as well, or whatever. Yeah, you could have an ornate helmet that looks almost horse-like. But when it comes to a motif, this sort of angular horse head, or should I say curved horse head, this is something that is quite iconic. So if you have your knight looking too different from this, then it might be hard for people to know which piece it's supposed to represent. That's right. Every other piece has what I would call radial symmetry. We have like this bishop, which has the notch. You have the king's cross, which sort of breaks up the radial symmetry on that. But the knight is the only piece that has a clear direction to it. And so I think it is worthwhile to think about that when it comes to making this piece. I'm going to actually, instead of looking at knight chess, I'm going to get reference of horse head. Reference. There we go. And the reason for that, horses are one of those things that they just exist inside the human mind, and everyone knows what they're supposed to look like. And if you do them wrong, people are like, "Oh, that doesn't look like a horse." So it really helps to get some reference into Blender, and it's really easy as well. Here's a nice little image of a horse side on. I think this one, or maybe this one. This is all good. So you may be asking yourself, like, aren't these images copyright? And the answer is yes. Any image you find on Google Image is copyright. And so you probably shouldn't just replicate those exactly, but you can use them as reference. You can use them to... No. But that's actually what I want to say. Like, there is nothing wrong with using these images in terms of using them to create different art that is inspired by them. Okay. So that one's hard to get for some reason. Let's see. Maybe I can go open image, a new tab. So I'm going to just download it straight into my downloads folder because I'm messy. And from there, I should be able to jump into Blender. I'm pushing 1 on the keyboard. And I should be able to just drag that straight in like this. Just like we did with our sketches earlier. Okay, so a nice little side-on of a horse head. That's pretty helpful. I'm also going to get one from a front view. Between a front and a side view, we should be able to get a pretty reasonable looking horse. Let's see. This one's kind of front on. That'd probably work pretty well. So it seems like open a new tab seems to work pretty well. And we'll just save that image. There we go. That's the same one. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Maybe refresh. There we go. Horse and horse. Excellent. In terms of getting them right, the same size, if I just scale this one down a little bit and we can move it around. So I'm pushing G to just move it around, S to scale it down. Maybe I might want the bottom of the chin to line up with one of these lines here and the top of the ears, just roughly, like that. Do the same with this one, so scaling it down, so it's similar sort of scale. Something like that should be fine. Okay, and you'll notice that I'm actually not putting either of these on the middle of my grid here. What I'm going to do instead is I've got this Wacom tablet, and rather than drawing a pencil sketch and then taking a photo of it, I'm going to show you guys a new little trick in here. We have the annotate tool here, okay? And so what I can do is just come in and I can just start to draw my chess piece, how I'd like it to look directly in Blender. That's pretty cool. So let's see, maybe I might do sort of a 3/4 view for this. Let's see, I can get like ears. I'm kind of doing mine a little bit more. No, we'll go for a simple horse actually. I was going to say I'm going to do it more like a dragon, but nah. We'll make it look like a horse. So while I'm drawing this, I'm also kind of thinking about the design and how it will 3D print. You'll notice that we've got this chin that is clearly overhanging, right? Even if we look back at the reference of like chess pieces, if we just go, hold on, chess, knight. Like most of these do have that sort of design baked in. We've got the chin sort of overhanging. And so when it comes to 3D printing these, we probably will need to use supports. It's not necessarily a problem. I do have some that I designed last time where I have the chin resting on the chest. And that is one way, like I'll show you what I mean by that. If I have the chest sort of coming around like this, that's one way we can make it so that it won't need supports. But it's not a big issue. I'm just going to leave it without that sort of design feature this time around. Trying to build in these sort of strong sternocleidomastoid muscles that you can see coming through here. And I also want some of that sort of curvature that I saw on the inspiration. Maybe getting a little bit thinner at the top of the neck as it comes up. All right, and I was trying to build in some sort of pedestal type effect where we got, you know, it can come down like this, flatten out there. All right, so we've got our horse. This is our reference. You can see it's sort of just a 2D image, just floating in space. I did actually learn that you can rub this out if you want to. You can hold left click on here and go to annotate eraser, and that lets you rub it out. But in this case, I'm going to leave it as it is. Pretty happy with that. So I'm going to start to demonstrate, before we get into sculpting, I'm going to demonstrate a process known as polymodeling, which technically we've been using so far to create our rooks and our bishops and things like that, but we're going to go about it in a different way this time, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back into that front view, and I'm going to add just a cube. So we're going to go Shift-A, Mesh, Cube. All right, and I'm going to move this maybe right into the center of his head. Just scale it down. Going to try and make this cube sort of fit roughly the shape of this horse's head, and then I'm going to subdivide it, and I'm going to start to just sort of extrude it out to create the rest of the shape. So let's go SX, make it a little bit longer, something like that. Maybe rotate it like this. I'll go into Tab, Edit mode, and I've just gone into X-ray mode as well, Alt-Z. So I'll grab these points here and just move them along to the tip of his nose. This bit can go underneath the bottom of his chin. This part can go between the ears, and this part maybe just at the base of the jaw here. Now I'll push Control R. I'm going to drop this edge all the way around. You can see what I've got so far, something like this. And I can just come in and grab these points and just move them down like this. These ones can go somewhere like that. Drop another one over here. And you can see that I'm quickly creating a really rough version of this shape. Now, obviously, if I look at it from a view like this, it's actually a little bit too thick, right? So what I can do is maybe take this front face here. It helps to sort of look around it in multiple, you know, in a perspective mode to figure this out. Just push S, Y, and just taper it down, maybe something more square shaped like that. You can do the same with the edges going around. If I hold Alt and click on this one, it selects all of the edges going around here. I can push S, Y, and scale that down a bit too. Same with this one, so Alt clicking, S, Y, scaling it down just a little bit. So that looks kind of like what I imagine a horse's head might look like. And then if I go ahead and subdivide this, so we're going to add a subdivision modifier, subdivision surface, you can see it now looks nothing like a horse's head. But it's a good start. It's going to help us a lot to have something like this when it comes to sculpting. And if I want it to look more like one, I could just add some more divisions. Put this up to like something like 3. Yeah, that's right. So if I put a division through like this, that's going to help a lot. Okay, move that into place. And yeah, we're actually kind of matching it pretty well now. I could either extrude this shape to create this neck, or I could create another shape that just sort of overlaps with it. In this case, I think I'll go with that route of just having an overlapping shape that will represent the neck. So I'll probably do that with another cube, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So mesh, so Shift A, mesh, cube. This one, I think I'll start right from the base down here. We can scale it down to begin with. Going to push Tab to go into edit mode, Alt Z to go into X-ray. Scale it down a bit, something like this. Before I get too far, I might actually just add the subdivision surface to this one. So I've gone back into object mode, subdivision surface, and I'll set that to 3, so it's nice and smooth. Can scale this one up a whole lot. GZ to move it down. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extrude this face along to create the rest of this neck. Right, so pushing 3 to go into face selection mode, getting that face there, and I can just push E to extrude. It's going straight up at the moment. I can push G to move that around. E again. Maybe we'll scale it down a bit. Just going to scale this part down a little bit as well. And you can see I'm quickly blocking out the major forms of this horse's neck. I'm not worrying too much about details. You'll notice things like this nostril and the eye I haven't bothered with yet. We'll get to that when we get to sculpting. Alright, so carrying on with the shape of this neck, I'm just going through, selecting these vertices, maybe scaling them in a little bit. You do have to make sure you're selecting all of them. If you just select one of them, it's going to make it quite weird. There is a way we can fix that at a later point, but for now it helps if you just make sure you're selecting the right parts. Let's see, get that a little bit narrower. Okay, last one. So extruding one more time. This one I'm going to really sort of roll around like this and try and merge with the horse's head like this. I like to sometimes get out of X-ray mode just to see what I'm working with, and I think that's looking pretty good. Right, so we now have what I'd call a base mesh, and it's subdivided as well. We can turn that off and you see what it actually looks like, which is pretty nasty. But what I'm going to do at this point is to apply these modifiers. So I'll apply both of these subdivision surface modifiers, and I'm also going to, I think I'll Boolean these shapes together. So just adding a modifier, generate Boolean, and I'll add this horse head. We'll use the union mode this time around and apply that as well. So should be able to delete this one. And now we have all of this in one piece. Nice and easy. And at this point, I'm going to show you guys how to sculpt. So if you come over to where it says object mode, you'll notice we've been using object mode and edit mode a lot. There's another mode underneath called sculpt mode. And if I go into this mode here, you'll see all of the tools around this change. So don't be daunted. It's not too bad. This is actually pretty cool. So let's start by just turning on some symmetry. You can see I've got the symmetry option here. I'm going to start by turning on enable mesh symmetry in the y-axis. So this means that any changes I make are going to happen on both sides. And as you see, I'm moving this cursor around and you can see there's a little speck dancing on the other side as well. So I'm going to use my Wacom at this point, and I'm just going to start sculpting because this stuff's fun. So just easily making changes to the surface like so. And that doesn't look very good. Um, what we can do, the way that sculpting works is we need to have a really high density mesh. And these polygons I've got at the moment, they're actually, you can still see them, and you kind of don't want to be able to see them for sculpting purposes. So I'm going to push R, and you can see this shows me this little grid. And as I move my mouse to the right, I move them until these squares are almost impossible to see, and I'm going to click. Then I'm going to hit Control R. And what I've just done is remeshed this model. If I zoom in close, you can see the little squares, but it's really, really dense at this point. Okay. So what I can do, I can come in here, I can use any of these tools. Draw is pretty obvious. If I click, it's just going to bulge it out of the surface. If I hold Control, it's going to do the opposite, so it's going to go into the surface. So really, really easy to start making large changes to this model just by sculpting. Okay, so I can come down here, make some holes for the nostrils, and then start to do something like this. And I'm not saying that it looks good yet, but the thing with sculpting, it's going to look bad until it looks good. So trust the process, have some fun. That's exactly right. So here's a grab tool. This thing is amazing. This is how you'll do most of the big changes. If I go into a side view again with this grab tool selected, I'm going to push F to make my brush a bit bigger. And then I'm going to just start to make changes to the silhouette of this model. You can see the eye is not in the right place at the moment, so let's move that back with this grab tool. Just like that. And then it's going to start looking a bit weird here. But what I can do is I can hold Shift, and this is going to change to my Smooth tool. And then I can just click and smooth, and that kind of just fixes things back to a sort of base level. And then I can start to draw again. So maybe we'll use something like this crease tool. This one here is pretty good. I can start to crease. This one's great for like if I want to make these nostrils nice and flared or something. There's a nice small brush size. You can use Control to make it, pop out of the surface instead. Yeah, and it's kind of like drawing in 3D. It's really fun. So I'd like everyone to, yeah, it's exactly like Play-Doh. There's lots of tools here. We've got, almost limitless options. We've got like this flatten tool here. You can just use that to like make sort of planes on the model. If I want this to be nice and flat here, easy way of doing that. Flatten out any parts you want. Grab tool, once again, use that heaps. It's really good. If I want it to be narrower through here, easy to do. Yeah, so that one's a really interesting one. So I think there's a tool just down here called the snake hook tool. The thing with ears, it's going to look quite bad. The way it's going to work, it's going to pull the mesh. That's actually not too bad. But if I start to move it around, you can see it starts to get really weird. And the reason for that, if I zoom in close, you'll see that I've actually got these faces stretching. Okay? So occasionally when you've stretched things out too much like this, it can help to push Control R again. And what that's going to do, it's going to reapply a remesh. And now all of these squares are back to square shaped again. So that lets me come in and start to use some of these other tools to make these look more like ears. Maybe we can use something like the, I don't know. Let's go inflate first of all. Inflate's pretty fun. You can just make things thicker. And then I can go in and, oh, maybe I should use the masking tool. Yeah, masking is pretty good. Let's get that. I can make a mask selection. By the way, I could probably do an entire 8-week block just on sculpting, and I'd like to, but yeah, we should just cover some of the basics. I just push Control I to invert, and now I can come in with this grab tool again, and we'll use a really big brush size this time. Coming from a side view, I'm just going to push those ears that I masked back in like that. Okay, so something like that, and then I can just go back to maybe mask and then clear mask. And I can come back in with the Shift to just round that out a little bit more. So Shift is the smooth tool. And if it starts to get a bit too thin, I can use the inflate tool to give it a little bit more thickness again. So lots of cool options. Yeah, This is definitely a skill set that is not going to be easy to master in 1 hour, but definitely have a bit of fun with it, guys. It's pretty cool. There's lots to learn and lots of fun to be had. There is actually a way to turn off the annotations if that helps. So just up here where it says show overlays, you can click on this little drop down and there's a little button here saying annotations. So that's, as far as I can tell, the only way to take them off. But yeah, I'd recommend also, if you've got reference in here, move it to a place where it's easy to see, so that you can sort of use that to make changes to your model as well.